Okay, so we expect all those joining our platform to have their mics muted so that we can have a good quality audio in the recording. Secondly, you are advised to use only one device to join the platform. And if you really must use more than one, you should have only one microphone enabled. That is also to avoid background sounds and also to avoid echoes in our recordings. Then you can use the chat box at any time to make contributions. And if you must make contributions via audio, we expect you to use the raise your hand feature on the participants box. And then when you are given the platform to make your contribution, we expect you to unmute yourself, make your contributions, and mute yourself back again. And that is to avoid background sounds such as what we are hearing right now. So with that out of the way, let's proceed. The next item on our agenda is the opening prayer. Usually we recite the second stanza of our national anthem, but you're also free to make another opening prayer of your choice. Can we have a volunteer for the opening prayer, please? A volunteer for the opening prayer.
But this is big stuff.
We have Engineer Stephen, can you give us an opening prayer?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I just had my name. What's
Yes, we are in the opening prayer segment of our meeting. Can you please give us an opening prayer, either by reciting the second stanza of our national anthem or another opening prayer of your choice?
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, let me read the second stanza of national anthem. Okay. O God of creation, direct one noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty height attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir. Please, we expect everybody not contributing to please mute their mics. Please mute your mic. Thank you. So still on the opening of our meeting, can a volunteer also lead us in reciting the first stanza of our national anthem? It is on screen. Can a volunteer please lead us in the reciting the national anthem, please?
Is it to recite or we have to sing it?
Sing it, please. Sing it, sing it.
Okay, all right, I'll volunteer. This is Engineer Rotimi Olubeko.
Welcome, sir.
Okay, thanks. All right, so it goes, arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call obey, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, and one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity. Amen.
Thank you very much, Engineer Rotimi, for the leading the national anthem. Right now, we are in the recognition of fellows in the house. Yes, to officially recognize all the distinguished fellows of the Nigerian Society of Engineers that have logged in to this general meeting. Starting off, permit me to recognize the presence of Engineer Dr. Uche Obiajulu, a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, a fellow of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers, a past state chapter chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Lagos State Chapter. Sir, you are welcome to our general meeting for the month of February. You can unmute and say,
thank you so much.
House, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Okay, still on the fellowship, recognizing our fellows. There's no other one I'm recognizing. I'm seeing at the moment, but as they join the platform, we shall always recognize them. So moving on, safety moments. We also would ask for a volunteer to give us a very brief safety moment. I believe I have one of the state chapter schools of the Nigerian Institution of Safety Engineers, who incidentally is also our Assistant Financial Secretary. Engineer Caroline, can you please give us a very brief safety moment? Engineer Caroline, are you online? Okay, so seems maybe she's not fully online right now. Can another volunteer give us a very brief safety moment?
Okay, hello. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, my name is a brief safety moment. We all know something that we are into. Now, we all will be asking for those of us that have our PVC. We're going to exercise our civic responsibility at the unit, conscious of his or environment. Please, no matter the political party that you are supporting, I will advise you to keep it to yourself when you get to the polling unit. Go there, cast your vote, and go home quietly. So even when you see any form of argument or set of people, trying to support a political party, please, this is not the best time for you to start showing who you are, maybe the party you belong to. Kindly go to the polling unit, cast your vote, support any candidate you want to support, and go back home quietly. So please, let's be very conscious of our environment in this season.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Isaac. Seems he's offline at the moment. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Online, sir.
Yes, you went off briefly.
Oh, okay. So it's actually on our forthcoming general election, sir. Go to your polling unit, cast your vote, and walk home quietly.
Okay.
That's just the summary of what I said, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. That is very, very important safety moment for us. It's important that we are smart about airing our views. The election is not about campaigning. It's about just going to the polling booth and exercising your rights, civic responsibilities, period. So like he rightly said, we should please avoid anything that will escalate into fisticuff and the safety hazard that would entail. So thank you, sir, Engineer Isaac, for that very important safety moment. Moving on, the chairman's welcome address. Once again, permit me to welcome everyone who has joined our virtual general meeting for the month of February. The branch has started very well this year with a lot of visits, though albeit mostly costly visits by the executive committees to sensitize corporate partners on what we have planned for the year. And we also have started with other with industrial visits, and there's a lot of presentations. Please, I would use this opportunity to solicit the support of everyone to ensure that the branch maintains its position as one of the top branches in the Nigerian Society of Engineers. It's important to note that a branch cannot be better than the support its members give. Right now, there is so much deficit in terms of compliance to paying annual dues. It's sad to note that our members are actually owing the branch close to 20 million naira in terms of unpaid annual dues. So please, our members should bear this in mind and help the branch survive, help the branch succeed. We are all here to bring out the best in ourselves within the engineering family and within the infrastructure project delivery space that we find ourselves as practicing engineers. Whatever support you can give to enable NSCVI branch to make the difference, please don't hesitate to do so. Whether it be via donations, whether it be via making yourself available, whether it be in any form at all, you are very much welcome. I also want to use this opportunity to thank all those who have called in to express their support, who have called in to give advice, who have called in to offer suggestions that will make us the very best that we can be. And we don't take this advice and support for granted. We take every single advice seriously. And as the year unfolds, I believe we will all be happy with the results that NSCVI branch will deliver in terms of performance, in terms of contributions to whatever we wish to achieve as professionals in 2023. So once again, thank you all for joining today, and I wish you the very best in the experience for this particular general meeting. So moving on, we are now in reading and adoption of the minutes of meeting. Can our General Secretary or the Assistant General Secretary lead us in reading and adopting the minutes of our last meeting? The minutes of our last meeting. I see our Assistant General Secretary, who also is a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Joan Weke. I don't know if she's still online. Are you online, ma'am? Engineer Joan Weke, FNSE. Okay, maybe she has not logged in fully. Engineer Isaac, can you assist us in going through the minutes of meeting?
All right, sir. You can just help us to share it on the screen if it's handy, sir.
Okay, one moment, please. One moment, please. Okay, go ahead, sir. Engineer Isaac. Hello, Engineer Isaac, are you online? Hello, Engineer Isaac, are you online?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, we have it on screen.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so please, just in our picture, the minutes of January 20 general meeting has been displayed. We're going to go to page by page. If you have any observation or if you have any correction, so please don't hesitate to call our attention to the you think we need to adjust. Okay, so this is the first page. Let's take a few and look at it together. Okay, let's move to the second page. Any observation, any comments?
Yes, I do. I believe I gave a summary of the council meeting that was held in January. I think I gave that summary, and we should capture it.
All right, sir. That will be handled by the secretariat, sir.
Yes.
Any other observation? Any comment on page 2? Okay, let's move to page 3. Let's move to page 3. Please confirm I'm audible. Someone just dropped a message on the chat that there is no audio.
You are audible, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. So please, that fellow can log out and join again. Probably it could be the network from your side. Okay, so we are on the last page. Any observation? Any comments? Okay, so at this point, since we don't have any other comment, Chairman, your comment has been noted. And like I said earlier, the Secretariat will take care of that and include the update from the council meeting for the month of January. So at this point, can anyone help us to adopt the minutes of January meeting? If you know you were present in that meeting, please kindly help us to adopt the minutes.
The same thing I said.
You understand? Why am I excluding?
Anybody was present for that was adopted, please. Is there
Anyone present at the general meeting can move the motion for adoption, please, so I can proceed.
Hi, Engineer Babatunji Adegoke. Hereby move for the adoption of the minutes of last meeting, subject to the corrections earlier highlighted. Thank you.
Continue, Engineer Isaac.
I, Engineer Isaac, am hereby second to the motion that was duly moved by Engineer Baba. At this point, over to thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Isaac, for leading us through the meeting. While the meeting was going on, I saw one of our fellows log in, Engineer Joan Weke, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, fellow Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers. Nice. And also our Assistant General Secretary. Madam, you are welcome to today's meeting. You can unmute and say a word or two to the House.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I hope we enjoyed the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So let's continue. So we are through with our minutes of meeting, and we are now in the matters arising. Is there any matters arising from the minutes which we should treat before we proceed? The floor is open for you to raise any matters arising from the minutes of meeting, please. Okay, take it that there's no matters arising. Let's proceed to the next item. Update from subcommittees. Our subcommittees in volunteers were inaugurated in December last year, and I'm pleased to inform the House that all the subcommittees have taken up properly, and we have some of their leads here, and would give a few minutes to them to brief the House, give a brief update to the General House on what they've been able to do since after the inauguration. If you are a subcommittee lead, just raise your hand so we'll give you the floor. Starting from Engineer Bright. Engineer Bright, are you ready to give us any updates on your committee?
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Go ahead, sir.
All right.
I don't understand this kind of people. I don't understand. What kind of person is this?
Continue, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. So, speaking from the Pervasive Innovation Committee, and we've had some meetings earlier this how our discussions were centered towards the World Engineering Day celebration scheduled for 4th of March next month. So we have a few activities that can done for that to mark the event. So part of that is sorry.
Continue, sir.
So part of that is an e-lecture where we'll be inviting a speaker to focus on some important topics of concern as it affects both the engineering and society in general. And then we also have YouTube channel. We talked about setting up a YouTube channel where we can broadcast our activities in terms of industrial visits, video display of some of the industrial visits, and even some of our presentations, technical presentations, can be uploaded on the YouTube channel so that subsequent so that people can always review them and get more of the ideas. So we've considered setting up the YouTube channel and also industrial visits to some industrial sites like the Dangote Refinery project. That's subject from the executive and members of the committee. So also for some of our technical institutions, we considered making competitions for them, competition as well as a debate on certain innovative solutions. And we look forward to reaching out to them, which can be coordinated by their lecturers or their supervisors. And then we could make some form of donations to reward for their commitment. So we also looked at the challenge of the payment of annual dues for members of the society, and considered that it's necessary we have a mobile application for the society, the branch, such that members would have a more interactive interface with the activities of the society. With that medium, they'll be able to get information of what is going on and make their payments in a more user-friendly way. So this is just a brief overview of what's going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Bright, for that summary of what the PIC committee has done thus far. We are very happy with the efforts you put into it, and I'm confident we'll have a lot of beneficial outcomes from what you have outlined for the year. So do we have any other subcommittee lead? We have the Enhanced Welfare Committee. We have the Serve Our Society Committee. We have the Infrastructure Scorecard Committee. Engineer Isaac, is your committee chair available for infrastructure?
I can't see him online at the moment.
Okay.
But on his behalf, I can briefly update the House on our achievements so far.
Okay, go ahead.
So speaking on behalf of the Infrastructural Scorecard Committee, so we need to hold our meeting twice. One was physical and the other was virtual. So we've been able to identify our major catchment areas because initially we were confused about the catchment area, area of coverage. But We've been able to narrow it down to our catchment area, which is Ibeju, Lekki local government, and Itiosa local government, which comprises of Lagos Island, Obalende, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki, Aja, down to I think Ekpe Aziz. So we've also identified some ministries that we'll be working with. This is all about our infrastructure. And so we're able to identify the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Land, Ministry of Transportation, Education, Health, and also we identify some private sectors like Dangote, Lekki Free Zone, some areas along the Lekki Ekpe Expressway. And we've also decided to pay a visit to some of the ministries. So we are here to submit our proposal letter to them, and that will be going out any moment from now. We just kind of pended it a little because of the general election that is coming up on Saturday. We believe these ministries will be very busy. But immediately after the election, we're going to commence the physical engagement with them, especially the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, and Works and Housing and Land. And so that will happen immediately after the election. And at the same time, we are also working on the questionnaires that will be shared with the general public for them to make their contributions and their opinions. And so it is these opinions that we, the committee, will be analyzing. And so, so far, this is the little we've been able to do. So we're going to collaborate with all these ministries that I've mentioned, and we also pay a physical visit to the Lekki Free Zone as is, including the Dangote refinery, which is also a key player in the infrastructural development on that axis. So, and at the same time, we've been able to source for the previous reports on this infrastructure committee. And so we are also reviewing the report, a kind of literature review, which we believe will be of a great help to us when we start compiling the report for this year. And at the same time, we also understand that we have a timeline for this, which is between now to June, July. So we are working with the timeline. By the special grace of God that we are going to deliver. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And this is just the brief of the purpose.
Thank you very much, Engineer Isaac, for that very interesting update. I know that your committee has already done a very thorough job of preparing itself for the task ahead. Thank you so much once again. Moving on, do we have any other subcommittee lead present on call now? Any other subcommittee lead or a member of any of the subcommittees that can give us an update?
Good evening, my chairman. This is Engineer John Weke speaking on behalf of the lead of Human Capacity Development.
Okay.
Yeah, we have had a meeting, and of course, we went through the mandate the committee was given, and what actually we've identified as our primary targets is making sure our members are participating in all the workshops and seminars that are being presented. the issue of capacity building is not really because these technical presentations are not there, the seminars are not there. It's just that sometimes people are not participating during these sections. So what we have decided in the committee is to take it upon ourselves. Anytime we shouldn't be waiting for the publicity team to, we will not rely only on publicity team to publicize our activities. We'll also take it upon ourselves to get member to, even if it means calling them and asking them to join these meetings, these seminars. Apart from this, we now have we also plan to see if there is a way, even if we don't get like training the people around our community, even if it's going to be our members or friends to our members, but on some soft skills that they can gain something out of. What we agreed, because we initially our mandate was like for plumbers, for welders, for but what we decided, if we can't get to train these people, because of course training a plumber, training a welder is quite expensive, and you really need to get someone that is very experienced, not only in the practical sense of it, but also in impacting this training to this kind of people. So what we decided is that if we can't get to do this kind of training for the community, for our area of catchment, that we will do something like maybe like in bakery, sewing, all this kind of fashion, all this kind of soft skills that people can like learn and use as their side hustle or even their main hustle, for our members, friends, like if you have, for the guys that have their wives can participate or even themselves. This is another area we've looked at too, but what we are looking at is that the time that it will be convenient that when you, because some of these things we'll plan to make it physical at the secretariat there. So it's also going to be time that is convenient for a lot of people to join. So we're looking at after election, we'll see how far when we throw it open to the members, we'll see how many people that have indicated interest, and this will enable us plan on when it will be done. At least this kind of training might not take so much in terms of finance. So we intend to embark on this one first, while encouraging our members to participate in experience our technical presentation, our seminars, and our workshops that enable them develop their capacity, build them up in terms of the job industry, in terms of stepping up in their work areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Joan Weke, for that very interesting update. And thank you for your committee members who have brought out the energy to do the needful in terms of preparing for the task ahead. So do we have any other subcommittee lead or member to give us an update before we proceed? Okay, so let's move to the next item on the agenda, which is update on industrial visits. I yield the floor to our technical secretary, Engineer Degoke, to give us an update on the industrial visits planned by the branch.
Thank you, sir. In the month of February, this month, we went on an industrial visit to Banana Island. We were well received by the management of Banana Island Residents and Property Owners Association. And they took us around some of their facilities. The facilities include the water treatment plant, the sewage treatment plant, and their power station. A number of our members attended the visit, and I believe that they benefited immensely from it. On this note, I want to thank those members that showed up for the visit. So far, we've had about 6 industrial visits. We would have more. We would have more during the course of during the year. But for now, might take a little break to focus on other activities. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Adegboke. Your secretariat has been doing well in preparing these industrial visits and course visits. I dare say more grease to your elbow as you proceed throughout the events for the year. Okay, so we are now in the technical presentation segment. I take it that our facilitator is online.
Yes, he's online, sir.
Okay.
I'm here. Good afternoon, everybody.
You are welcome. Just one moment, please, before we proceed. Please permit me to acknowledge the presence of Engineer Omobolanle Giwa, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Madam, you are welcome to today's general meeting. You can unmute and say a word or two to the House. Engineer Giwa, you are welcome to our platform today. You can unmute, say a word or two to the House. Okay, maybe she's not fully connected. So let's proceed. Engineer Adegboke, please go ahead and introduce the facilitator for today's presentation.
Thank you, sir. Our facilitator for today's presentation is Engineer Ovie Adjekpiyede, MNSE. He is the head of project planning and implementation at EKEDP. Engineer Ovie has a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical and electronics engineering from the prestigious UNIBEN and UNILAG, respectively. His working experience cuts across government, power regulatory, and private sectors. He has also been a key player in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. He has over 18 years of professional practice experience in his areas of expertise include power system, modeling and analysis, distribution network planning, network augmentation and expansion design, power project cost estimations, distribution systems protection, and project execution. He modeled from the first principles, the governors, exciters, and power system stabilizers for all the thermal and hydro generating units in the grid, and carried out the stability studies for the integration and evacuation of the 10 NIPP power generating plants into the national grid in 2017. He has also carried out the study for the protective relays recalibration and coordination for the Chevron North offshore areas and Escravos power plant and Escravos power plants. And he has also successfully executed various distribution expansion projects for EKEDP in Lagos. Engineer Ovie has attended various local and international trainings, conferences, workshops, and seminars. He is a devout Christian, happily married to Olufisayo, and they are blessed with 2 children. Distinguished engineers, please join me in welcoming Engineer Ovie as he makes his presentation on the topic titled Hindrances to the Development of Grid Power in Nigeria, the Way Forward. Engineer Ovie, you have the floor, sir. You are most welcome.
Good evening, my distinguished chairman and all the executive members of the EI branch of the MNSE. I want to say thank you for this wonderful opportunity given to me to make this presentation. I hope you can hear me, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So once again, thank you so much. I'm really honored to have this presentation. And I want to please apologize for joining the call late. The flight was delayed from 1:45, and then we had to keep hovering over in Abuja for over 20 minutes before landing. So, as we speak, I'm in the airport. I had to stay in the car to make this presentation so that I'm part of this. So please pardon me. So I'll go straight to share my screen, all protocols observed so that we don't delay too much. I'll go straight to share my screen and go straight to the presentation. Thank you. Just to put a face, I would put on my camera for 1 minute. So that's my face, that's me. Don't mind how rough I'm looking now. Okay. Then I would go straight to share the presentation. 1 minute. Just a minute, please. Okay. Can we see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So the topic for today's presentation is hindrances to development of grid power in Nigeria, the way forward, presented by Engineer Ovie or Adjekpiyede, MNSE, to the Nigerian Society of Engineers, PI branch, February 2023. Straight to the table of content. We have the introduction. We'll be looking at the overview of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, then summary of the value chain, that's the electricity value chain in Nigeria. Then we'll look at the advantages of having a grid system. Grid. So that's the perspective from which we are looking at today. Then we'll look at the way forward. Thank you. So by way of introduction, power output, that's grid power from the Nigerian electricity grid system, has remained stagnant at about 4,000 megawatts over the years. Resulted in the default NEPA translating to the successor companies, GENCOs, TCN, DISCOs, the regulatory body NEC, and other agencies in the power sector. So what we are saying is that despite the Power Sector Reform Act megawatt. Okay. There has been huge investment by government and even the private sector on the expansion and upgrades of the power generating and grid infrastructure in the country, but the situation remains seemingly defiant. The same. That power supply from an adequate and reliable national, the quantum and quality of electricity required to drive our economy. This presentation highlights some of the salient issues that have hindered the development of grid power from the inception of the EPS Act, in spite of the continuous increase in load demand in the country. So low demand, our load demand keeps increasing. The enabling environment is there from it, but it looks as if we're not making much progress. So this is just an overview of the industry which that's bulk power generation happens in remote areas and needed to be transported to load centers. Then we see that also we have embedded renewable generation. Those are generations that you have localized within the load centers, or if you like, in the discos or close to customer premises, but connected to the grid, most of them also. Then you have power transmission, which transports the power, bulk power, from the generating companies to load centers. So you can see the blue lines there, those are transmission lines, and the other red lines. Then you have the distribution, power distribution that supplies power from the load center to end user. So that's just the basic summary of what the grid looks like. The picture is self-explanatory. Okay. Now we want to look at the value chain. The first thing we need to note about the value chain generally is that the entire electricity value chain is funded by the end users paying for electricity consumed. Whether it is captive generation or grid power or solar power, wherever power is consumed, it is the end user that pays for it. That's what happens. So we can see the diagram there, we can see that it is while power flows from the fuel companies, they provide fuel for the GenCos, then TCN transports the power to the discos, but the Naira flows back from the end user back to every other person along that value chain. So that's one thing we need to understand when we are looking at this presentation this evening. And of course, the grid starts from, we can say, at the GenCo terminal, and then to probably, we can say, the 33 and 11 kV lines of the distribution company. So that's the grid. So what is hindering the development of this section? As we will see shortly, we'll look at that. Then power from the Nigerian grid is unreliable and insufficient to meet demand. So one thing we know is that power from the Nigerian grid is unreliable. Everybody knows that, and insufficient to meet demand. We'll look at that also. Then we'll be seeing that greater than 50% of the power consumed at peak period is generated off-grid and very expensive to end users. Then lastly, we see that 24/7 power solution is readily available. If you want a solution that can give you 24/7 power solution, it's readily available, but cost prohibitive to average Nigerians and not sustainable for industries to drive the economy. So that's also something so the solution is there. So the solution for reliable power is not there, but it is expensive and not sustainable to drive the economy where it is now. So if you look at for year 2020, we understood that the estimated load demand in the country from the load demand forecast carried out by Fitch in 2016 put our load at about 10.2 gigawatts, whereas available power generation has, even up to now, still remains around that 4 gigawatt. Now, if you now assume that at peak periods, over 80% of the load, that's 8.2 gigawatt, is being supplied by combination of grid and off-grid power, it means that estimated available off-grid power at peak is about 4.2 gigawatts. What we are trying to say here is that if you fly in the night, for instance, maybe in Lagos or Abuja, and maybe there's even system collapse and the whole country from the grid is out, you will still see that everywhere is still lit up, which means people still use power even when the grid is not there. So that 4.2 gigawatts, you can now see that even off-grid power, what people are generating privately, is competing actually with what the grid can actually do at this time. That's what we're trying to bring out from here. Okay. Now, if we look at this, sorry, 1 minute. Okay, advantages of grid power. That's what we're looking at now. Now, we've oftentimes heard arguments where people say, defragment the grid is too big, cut Lagos off, keep Lagos alone, defragment the grid is our problem. How can somebody be generating from Sokoto, send it to, and they say all manners of things like that. But we want to look at why do we really need this grid? Number one, cheaper due to economies of scale. That one is known. If you buy more, you are supposed to get discount and it's cheaper for you. Economies of scale, that's known. Number two, more sustainable for bulk power supply due to diversity of generation mix. Now, it's more sustainable because you have things like your hydro, your thermal plants, your different solar renewables connected to the grid if you have them. So it should be more sustainable. Okay. Then again, we also discovered that another advantage is that the grid should be more reliable because of higher inertia. This subject of inertia, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
We are with you.
Okay.
Yes, we can, sir.
We can hear you.
Thank you. The subject of the inertia of the grid is a discussion for another day, very interesting subject. But we are saying that the grid should be more reliable because it should have higher inertia. But what we are experiencing in Nigeria, our grid has a very low inertia. Inertia simply means, in simple way I can explain it, the megawatts divided by the hertz. So if you look at it carefully, you find that we have a situation in Nigeria where our H constant for the grid is about 80 megawatts, 80 megawatts hertz. So 4 transmission lines, 4 distribution lines. If you have one line go off in Port Harcourt, one in Lagos, one in Ibadan, one in Kano at about the same time, then the grid becomes unstable. And so that is also another matter. So ideally, the grid should be more reliable because it should have very high inertia. Okay, that it should be more resilient. Okay, then another advantage of the grid eliminates the burden of space for power generation, maintenance, and operational cost on end users. So we all know what it is if you want to set up a solar farm, a solar power plant, the space you will need to get 1 megawatt of solar power generation. Somebody was in my office some few days ago and was talking about generating 1 megawatt on solar and cell and batteries. And the first thing she said was that I need a space as big as half a football field. And the target of that person was Banana Island. And I told her, where will you get half a football field in Banana Island? It's gold. It's more than the power you are bringing. So we can see. So it eliminates the burden of space for power generation, maintenance, and operational costs on end users. Then lastly, required to sustain the desired industrial drive in Nigeria, large industries greater than 20 megawatts can hardly survive on captive or renewable generation. We'll discuss that also. So you discover that when the power consumption, especially for large industries, goes above that 20 megawatts, they can hardly survive on captive generation. So many reasons. For instance, solar power now, they don't have you hardly will get your reactive power from them. So issues of stability, issues of protection comes in. So it becomes difficult for large industries that are consuming over than 20 megawatts to survive captive or renewable generation. So it's quite complex. Okay, can I go on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next thing we'll be looking at is Now, we are now going to talk about the hindrances to the development of the Nigerian electricity grid. So what actually is hindering the Nigerian electricity grid from making the desired progress as it should make? That is what we want to look at, okay? Now, the need for reliable and affordable power in Nigeria to enhance industrial growth and development cannot be overemphasized. As obtained globally, the grid system is used to provide power to drive industrialization because it is more resilient and provides better power security to the industry. We find out that the industrialized world, they built their industries on the grid. So when they start talking about renewables, that is just to sustain maybe base load, residential load, while the grid continues to power the industries. So but here you see people talking about why not you power your industry on solar? Why not you power, go and set up wind farm? Sometimes we just look at it and say, no, it's not like that. So we need to note that. This explains why nations are investing in grid interconnectivity. E.g., you have the Canadian-US grid interconnectivity, you have the North Pool in Europe, you have the West African Power Pool. Somebody will tell you, why are we investing in extending our line to Sakete to Niger Republic? Want to make your grid bigger, the bigger the better, the more resilient, the more stable. So that's actually the reason. The bigger and the more robust grid is, the better. So that's actually the reason. It's very key to driving industrialization for any nation, that particular point. Okay. In Nigeria, the issues inhibiting power development are more of governance, regulatory, social, and commercial, rather than technically inclined. Some of these are highlighted and briefly discussed below. So what we are saying is that it is not because the technology to make our grid work is not there. It is not because the capacity in terms of human capacity, the engineers to run the grid, to drive the grid, is not there. It's not because we don't know what to do, but the issues inhabiting the grid are more of governance, regulatory, social, and commercial, rather than technically inclined. So I would want to look at it from that perspective in this presentation. Okay. And the reason is that so that people will not say you are electrical engineers and look, there's no power in Nigeria, as if it is the engineers that don't actually know what to do. That's not the case. There are other underlying issues. Okay. So let's quickly move to the next point. Okay. Hindrances continues. The first thing we'll look at that hinders the development of the grid, uncoordinated investments. We have a lot of uncoordinated investments in the grid. Inability to approve and monitor the implementation of a harmonized system plan has resulted in skewed investment in the electricity industry in Nigeria. If you look at this simple schematic diagram here, in Nigeria, the GenCos have a capacity of over 13 gigawatts. The transmission lines, TCN transformation capacity at 330/132 is over 10 gig. The lines about 8 gig. At 132/33, 12 gig. The discos, it will shock you to note that the discos have over 23 gig capacity. Yet, when you go down to that small box down, you will discover that the connected load to the grid is just 7 gig. When we say connected load, those who are connected, that the disco can say we recognize this person as part of the grid, about 7 gig. But the average generation continues to remain around 4. So somebody will now ask, you have 13, okay, let's even say the weakest link is the TCN, where you have 8 gig, for instance, that's the lines. Why are we not even pushing out that 8 to be able to satisfy the load of 7 gig? What are the issues? So you can now see that there's usually a suppressed load of about 3 gigawatts from that distance. So we can see that average generation remains at 4 gigawatts with occasional peak not up to 6 gigawatts, despite individual installed and transfer capacity of the GenCos, TCN, and DISCOs. If you look at that graph on the left-hand side of the sheet, you will see the installed capacity, the transferred capacity, and the average generation for the GENCO, the TCM, the DISCO, and the load. So you can see that the GENCOs, as we said, they can do up to about, 13? And their transfer capacity is the yellow line. But you can see the load is still far below. So this is one of the reasons for this is that uncoordinated investment. I'll just give an example very quickly. Take an example for the distribution side, for instance. Somebody does not have electricity in his house. The first thing will come, we say we need a transformer. You approve for him, he connects his transformer. That does not provide power to his house. So when you look at the capacity, the transmission capacity at the distribution side, it's overbloated. TCM will wake up maybe from one political, how will I put it now? Somebody will say, do a line from here to so place, and they do it. And there are any returns on it, yet it's not contributing to increasing the capacity of the output from the grid. So uncoordinated investment. So if you look at this graph carefully, you discover that because the investments are not coordinated, even though the infrastructure is there, but they cannot give the desired output to meet up with the load demand. Okay, so the next thing we'll look at very quickly, hindrances continued. Subsidy for lifeline customers. This is something very interesting. And it's, okay, you know, the tariff model looks at what we call the cross-subsidy model. What that does, okay, let me just read to cross-subsidy results in high tariffs in areas with less grid presence, thereby disincentivizing industrial growth necessary for grid development. What we are saying is that if you look at the map of the country and the grid system we see there, the grid is concentrated more in the south and southwest. When you go up north, you see that the grid infrastructure is very scanty. But now go to the other table beside where we have the tariff classes. You have the arrow one, which are your lifeline customers, then the non-MD and the MD. Your industries fall within the MD. The non-MD are usually maybe large commercial customers and then so okay, residential customers are three-phase, but the bulk power consumers are the MD customers. Now, in a place like Yola, for instance, the Northeast, which is one of the most affected by what we are saying, arrow one consumption, lifeline consumption is 4 naira per kilowatt hour all over the country. Once somebody's on lifeline, it's on 4 naira. But the average tariff is about 59.4 naira in Yola, whereas it's 45.34 in Lagos. That's for non-MD. And for MD, about 64.2, whereas it's about 51.9 in Lagos. What this is telling you is that it means that for an industrial consumer, it is cheaper for me to stay in Lagos than to go to Yola to go and set up my business. If that's the whole story, then we say, well, maybe I'll stay in Lagos, I have the other benefits of staying here. But the issue here is this. Why is it like this? Because of the large chunk of residential R1 customers, lifeline customers in the north and such places, you find a situation whereby the few industries have to bear the burden for extending the grid to that place, cross-subsidizing the cost of providing grid power to those communities. Because everybody wants to be connected to the national grid. You have a situation where in places like Yola, you have in the north, you have 33 kV feeders carrying 20 megawatts running up to 300-400 kilometers in this country. Now, at the end of the day, the power quality is zero, number one. What about the investment? The cost of running that line from wherever it's coming from, and then you're only going to pick up a 500 kV transformer. And then at the end of the day, the person pays 4 naira per kilowatt hour. So it is the man who says, look, I want to establish an industry in Yola that bears that brunt. So crop subsidy results in higher tariffs in areas of less grid presence, thereby disincentivizing industrial growth necessary for grid development. Okay, we go to the next point. Sorry. Sorry, please. Okay. The next we'll look at, excuse me, capacity of current grid power off-takers. We want to also look at the capacity of current grid power off-takers. Who are the bulk of people presently connected to the grid today? How do you look at them? Are they able to sustain the grid? Is it viable to continue to leave only those classes of people remaining in the grid? Will they be able to engender development of the grid? That's what we're looking at. There are more of residential and commercial rather than industrial consumers connected to the grid. Increased power availability to this class of customers will result in demand side management rather than corresponding growth in power consumption. Take an example. A 1 kilowatt hour power consumer that can only spend 40 naira per month for power can only afford 20 hours of power supply from the grid, given the current tariff, if you go by that. And if you look at the tariff for renewables now, he can only afford the maximum of 8 hours. And if you now look at the tariff for diesel generation, for instance, he cannot even do more than 5 hours. So what that tells is that if you increase power availability to that kind of customer, assuming as a disco or as government or as a power producer, I spend more time to say, this man who is currently receiving maybe this 20 hours, I want to give him 24 hours. And I make some investment to increase power supply to him. What happens? Because he cannot pay more than what he will always pay, he whether quickly resorts to reduce his power consumption, demand side management. Quickly, he will identify all the incandescent bulbs in his house and remove them. If it's a hotel, he will change all his water heaters to modern ones because say, what is this? Or he will result in power theft or deferred payment. He will start owing you because his economy is fixed. So, but if you talk of a bulk power consumer, somebody who is producing, the more you give him power to produce, the more efficient his production line is, so he can pay you. So we need to note that. That's what we're saying here. So if you look at the graphs, you will see that so that's explanatory. So let's go to the next one so we don't take too much time. Lack of firm contracts. This is also another interesting part. Lack of firm contracts in the market. Lack of end-to-end contracts does not incentivize commitment to service delivery. Large industrial power consumers necessary for grid development cannot tolerate poor power quality and unpredictable power outages, especially without adequate compensation. There was an investigation which I personally partook in by NEC that revealed that power availability on feeders to industrial customers in Ikeja, that we did that, I personally took part in it, even in Ikeja here, in Ikeja industrial area. Power availability from the grid to the feeders supplying them is between 18 to 20 hours. But these industries are not connected to the grid or do not depend on the grid for production because of poor power quality and unpredictable outages. The first question they will ask you, you have 18, 20 hours. Tell me which time of the day you will go out. I say, I can't tell you. Say bye-bye. Another man will say, this on-off damage the cards for my production line. So wait, I don't want to. So you now discover that these things now make the grid supply only commercial and industrial and residential consumers who are watching TV, light goes off, your TV has a UPS, 10 minutes time comes on, life continues. But the industrial consumers cannot tolerate that. They cannot tolerate that. Okay, so that's what we're trying to say there. Okay, then we're looking at power to, so, sorry. Okay, we've talked about current capacity of the grid for power off-takers, then lack of firm contracts. Okay, so now let's look at some of the way forwards. So having discussed these issues, that's number one, as I said, no firm contracts. If we go back to that, meaning that there is no firm contract from the fuel producer to the end user, such that if I am saying I need power from the grid and there is a default, I am adequately compensated. It gives me confidence to remain in the grid. But when that is not there, forget about it. So, but we find a situation here now, for instance, there's the issue of the SBT, service-based tariff, that the regulator allows the discos to classify their customers based on services delivered to them. So there's supposed to be a contract and to give you a band A supplier at least 20 hours in a day. If I don't give you after consecutively for 2 months, that. But you need to ask me who is responsible why I'm not able to give this man I entered a contract into with his 20 hours. So when the disco now say it is TCN, if I default, this is this thing. But the man who supplies me, the contract does not cover that liability on my part. So you can see, so there's no end-to-end contract. To a close. One, power to lifeline consumers can be provided off-grid. Well, I said Rural Electrification Agency. It could be any other thing. I just picked that. Isolated cap generation for this cost investment to extend grid power to somebody who cannot pay for that investment. Because if I do that as a this man, which is the only industry in that area, that will be that body. So he will run away, he will fold up. So, but if those places have maybe a small mini grid, a isolated solar power supply, if I was using from 1 megawatt to 15 megawatt, he will be the one to say, look, I want to sell power there because he will make money. And immediately his tariff is cost effective. But now you see state governments will come and say, my people have been out for 20. Lakodo is after free trade zone, because I've been to all those places. 10 years ago, there were some substations I went to in that place. It is the vehicle I was using that was clearing the roads to get there. And you saying is that, but today, the story has changed. So you can see that a disco now will happily go to that place to go and invest. But at the time, it was just 1,500 kV transformer in the bush. And then you say, because it is government, I want to provide electricity for my people. And draw this line and take to that place. Who pays? Pay only for naira per kilowatt hour. The cost of even going to collect that money. In fact, I did an analysis. The cost of metering those customers just to meter their consumption, you cannot recoup it in 20 years. Not to talk of making profit for that investment. So that that is sustainable. Okay, number two, there should be end-to-end contracts in the value chain from fuel providers to end users to identify the commitment to service delivery to attract industrial consumers to the grid. To project the neutrality of the ISO and enhance her ability to enforce market. Hello? Can I continue?
Please continue, sir.
Continue, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah. So we are saying that complete separation of TCN. You know, TCN means Transmission Company of Nigeria, which manages the grid. TCN stands on two pillars. You have the ISO, which is the independent system operator, made up of the market operator and the SO, system operators. And then you have the TSP. The TSP is the transmission service provider that provides the lines, the towers, and maintains them. It is very important that these two are completely separated. If those large consumers will come into the grid and have confidence in the grid. The reason is because you can't, if there's a dispute, you can't first of all blame yourself, you blame the other man. So take, for instance, there's an outage, a system collapse today. TCN will first of all tell you it is the disco. If they cannot say it's disco, they will tell you it is the Genco. And nobody is there to actually do a proper investigation to sanction the TSP if the problem is from them, because they are one body. So this removes the confidence large market participants have on the grid. Because you know, what happened now? Why did my power go out? And everybody's just telling you, nobody's telling you anything. Because the ISO, who is supposed to enforce the market rules in terms of, okay, it is your liability, pay this amount, the MO. The SO, okay, it is your line that went out, I knew what happened, is still under TCN. So that's a very crucial matter that we need to look at. Then number four, the regulator to ensure, that's next now, I think that's onus is on next, the approval and monitoring of the implementation of the system plans to provide, as provided in the market rules, to properly streamline investment in the industry. So the market rules make provisions for system plans, which include GAR, that's the Generation Adequacy Report, transmission, TEP, Transmission Expansion Plan. You have the low demand forecast and distribution expansion plan. You have the system adequacy report. You also have your power procurement plan. These are plans that are clearly stated out in the market rules. But the issue becomes when the regulator has not approved those plans and does not monitor their implementation. Anybody wakes up tomorrow and say, look, I'm building an ST there, come and give me a line. Oh yeah, give me a line. And then the disco say, yes, it's true, and put a line. You're not even sure whether it has the capacity to provide the power to that estate. So that is very, very crucial. So these 4 points I've been able to put together. Okay, let's see. So the 4 points we have looked at, if we take them one after the other, we discover that we'll be able to speed up, as it were, the development of such that the grid can sustainably provide power to end users and then bring back the confidence of our industries so that they can grow and survive in our climate. Okay. So now, lastly, very quickly, because I know our time is far, we now look at the role of the engineer, of the Nigerian engineer. There are a number of roles engineers can play to enhance the development of grid power, to boost industrialization, which will create more opportunities for engineers. Some of these, 3 of them I just picked out: research for cheaper and more sustainable solutions for off-grid power to rural communities. I know a lot of research is going on for renewable, for solar, so we still need to do more. How to make sure that we provide sustainable power to them that is within their cost range, so that that burden will be removed from the grid, so that the grid can expand and become more robust to people who can sustain it, to reduce the burden of extending the grid to such communities in a bid to provide power for all. The number 2, greater involvement in policies and decision-making agencies of government. So engineers need, what we have today is the decision makers in the industries are more of financial people and legal people. Somebody just comes and tell you, you see, if I put a power plant, let me just give you an example. Somebody came and said he wants to site a 2,000 megawatt power plant in Lagos. And I told him, I said, no. And he thought I was his enemy. What do you do with Egbi? Where are you going to evacuate that power? But somebody is telling you that Lagos has load, put 2,000 megawatts of power there. You will sell, you will make money. And because he's talking to financial people and accountants and such people, they want this thing done. So engineers who understand these things needs to be involved in policies and decision-making agencies so that we can well advise and direct government and other agencies of government to do the right thing. So it's very key. Then lastly, better collaboration by engineers within and outside the power sector to enhance power system planning. So we also need to collaborate because we know that the value chain, as we saw above, starts from fuel. Gas companies, the fuel users, the fuel providers, the disco, and also finances. So you also need people who will bring in money into the system. So we need to do better collaborations by engineers within and outside the power sector to enhance power system planning so that the planning is holistic. You're not only looking at planning for how you get the money, but if I bring in this power plant, what will be the implication? A very small example for a few of us who may know, we know the issue with Azura, for instance, in Benin. So the power plant is there. To run Azura, for instance, you may have to almost shut down the hover, which is also in Benin. But this was done. So those are things that engineers need to come in. And if you are not there where these decisions are made, they will be imposed on us. So better collaborations by engineers within and outside the power sector to enhance power system stability. So thank you. I think I've been able to conclusion now, just to wrap up this presentation. All investment in the power industry are to be paid for by the end users. We've established that. So all investments are to be paid for by end users. Globally, residential and commercial activities are not sufficient to provide the required investment to build a robust and reliable grid power system. You must target grid expansion to industries. Otherwise, the grid will never be reliable. That's the end of this presentation. Grid expansion will be targeted at industries, not for just residential and commercial activities alone. The grid system in Nigeria can deliver twice its current output if large industries are incentivized to return to the grid, thereby generating the required resources to further expand the grid. Even as the grid is today, if we do the right thing in terms of governance and regulation and other matters, the grid can still provide twice its current capacity, even though that is not sufficient to drive our economy. And once you do that, the liquidity to further expand the grid, make it more robust, will come in. We must do all that is required, which includes the way forward, which I have listed above, to get our industries connected back to the grid to ensure it is developed to a point where it can generate 24/7 power delivery to all connected loads to the grid. Thank you. So I think I rest my case. The rest is reference. Thank you very much. Question?
you very much, Engineer Ovie, for that wonderful presentation. I believe members would have gained one or two things from it. We are now in the question and answers section. So if you have any question or comments, kindly indicate by raising your hand. I can see Engineer Adjekpiyede's hand up. Engineer Adjekpiyede.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you, distinguished chairman and our able presenter, Engineer Ovie. One of my feedback is that you have done justice to all the assumption, the good number of us who are not really directly working in that line. Thank you very much for that insightful. But I have a question. Number one, the question I have is that with all the problems that have been highlighted and the recommendation, it's obvious we know what our problem is over time. And it's just that it's becoming rocket science for us to resolve it as a nation. Now, I remember vividly, because I follow it up, that during Obasanjo time, they were trying to decentralize the grid. And because of a lot of the factors that you have mentioned as hindrances, that I even saw in some of the southeast, south side that I went to, where they were, developing all this grid and to make sure that the grid are close to the people, regionally and maybe even state-wise for states that have the capacity to invest more into it. But suddenly, after 2007, all these efforts were frustrated. And now we had to roll back again, and since then we have been struggling. I don't know if it is my assumption, because with this presentation, it's obvious that we have known all these problems for a long time, but we are just making a rolling wave of it. So what do you think really happened? Is it that decentralization of the grid cannot be sustainable? Because you also mentioned that the more our grid provide for others like Niger and some other related country, the more sustainable it is. So is it that if we decentralize, Nigeria is small enough for us, for the regions to be able to, accommodate and make it resilient? Thank you. That's one of my questions. My second question is that I visited with my chairman sometimes last year, Engr power station, and we understand that they even have generation that is more than what the central grid required. That at times they even waste some of these things. They are losing money. Why are we having this? Is this because we do not have, if it is true that we have sufficient capacity on the grid, up to 13 gig that can accommodate this thing for the central grid before it goes back through the TCN and to the distribution? What is hampering all these? So these are just the things I want to know. Thank you, sir.
I will just permit me to take these two questions first before we take other one, so that I don't lose thought of them. My chairman, sir, can I go ahead?
Carry on, sir.
My chairman, sir, can I go ahead?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So the first question about decentralizing the grid, I want to let you know that there was never a time really that government was thinking of decentralizing the grid. The plan was to expand the grid. And I was privileged to be part of those who did the evacuation study for more power plants and transmission lines to strengthen the grid. That was even read in my profile. So I understand that very clearly. What we're looking at that is probably what you were trying to say is that maybe in the event of a fault, it does not cascade all over the country. So there are some equipment you put to try to mitigate fault levels at some point. That was the language, but not decentralizing the grid. Actually, government effort or what we are doing is to expand and strengthen the grid, not fractionalize it. So we need to understand that. So I also want to quickly note that the investment made that time is even the saving grace for the grid today. If you take your daily dispatch today, 60–70%, apart from the hydropower plants that are sustaining the grid today, are NIPP power plants. So if not for that, it would have been completely zero today. So you hear people say, that investment was not, if not for that investment, probably we will not even have anything like power from the grid today. So that's what is even sustaining the grid. So let's not get it wrong that they were trying to decentralize. No, that investment was good, was timely. But what we are saying is that we tried at that time, but even going forward, the investments have not been properly coordinated. That's why you have again 3,600 megawatts in Lagos. I gave an example of somebody who came and said he wants to put another 2,000 megawatts in Lagos. And you hear me say, what happens to Egbin? If Egbin is struggling to dispatch and I'm putting another one beside it, and then the man will come and sign a take and pay contract. You take or you pay. So what happens? So if investments are streamlined, the system plans are followed, and you get a point where you now say power procurement plan, and then the SO now says, look, the next power generation I'm building is in Sokoto. If Lagbaja is coming to say, I want power plant in Lagos, say, no, go and build in Sokoto, that's why I need it. Just to also give another perspective why we have what it is, we discovered that we have hydropower generation. That one is a must dispatch, especially in the rainy season at some certain periods of the year. Otherwise, there will be serious issues of flooding. So if the power from the grid, the load is 4,000 megawatts, and the hydropower plant is taking about 1,500 to 2,000. So if you remove 1,500 to 2,000 from 4,000, what remains is 2,000. So how do you now share that 2,000 to every other participant in the grid? Azura will come and tell you their contract is take or pay. So if you say, I know, dispatch Egbi, Azura will say, no problem. I have a contract. If you don't dispatch me, you must pay me my money. So what happens is that you cut it, okay, you take 5%. There's what we call a merit dispatch order. The hydros are take or pay. The take or pay, the hydros are must dispatch. Then you have plans that have take or pay like Azura. You must dispatch the order, you pay for them. So those of them now that are not must dispatch or take or pay, you now have to scale them down. That's what's affecting places like Egbi. So and somebody will now come again and say, I want to put another power plant in Nigeria, in Lagos, when you have not addressed that fundamental problem. I don't know if I've been able to answer your question.
Thank you very much. You have answered it. It's just that the way forward for us is rocket science.
The way forward is not rocket science. Engineers need to actively participate in government. Let me give you a small example. Some of us will know late engineer Shomolu in 2005. Because I was privileged to be with him, when Obasanjo government decided to start with NIPP, the plan was to go and do only power plants. He was the one that walked up to him and said, sir, because then he was senior special assistant to the president on power sector reform. He said, sir, if you build generation plants and you don't build transmission lines and distribution stations, you are wasting your time. The man said, really? He said, yes. So he said, then go and add it to the project. If you know Lekki, that fast transmission station in Jakonde, some of us will know it very well, in Jakonde there. He personally went to the governor of Lagos State, then His Excellency, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to say, look, give me a land here because we are going to put this transmission station here. But imagine if there was no engineer like that to speak. So you find out that the government of that time would have just built power stations everywhere and I'll be wondering why people are not getting power. So that was what led to expansion of the transmission grid and even distribution networks. In the co-franchise areas at that time, we had over 28 injection substations being done by NIPP because of a singular intervention. So if we have 3, 4, 5 of him in politics, in decision making, you can imagine what we have. But if we keep ourselves to solving the Y and the X, the accountants will come and impose these things on us, and there's nothing we can do. So that's why we said we need to actively get involved in policy and decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, if there is none, then I would, at this point, hand over to my chairman, Engineer Mekaibe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ovie, for that very, very interesting presentation. Can we confirm that I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You are.
We always have a way of saying thank you officially to anyone who shares knowledge with us. Engineer Adegoke, do you have the certificate of appreciation available?
Yes, sir. One moment.
Can you please share it? Share it, please. Okay, to help us appreciate our facilitator and also to present our certificate of appreciation, permit me to call on Engineer Joan Wike, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, to please do us the honors.
Good evening, everyone. I can only say, wow, a lot of assumptions has been cleared, a lot of questions answered. You might be thinking why didn't there a lot of people trying to contribute or trying to ask you many questions. But the thing is that you've already answered a lot of questions during the course of the presentations, and you've cleared a lot of assumptions that people had during the course of this presentation. We can only say thank you so much for that. And I want to, on behalf of the whole members of VI branch, present to you this certificate of appreciation, Engineer Ovie, for sharing valuable knowledge on hindrance to the development of grid power in Nigeria, the way forward, which took place today on our Zoom platform. Thank you so much, sir. And we hope that next time when we call on you, you will answer us. I wonder the another question we'll be having on power, because I think you touched everything today. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, my chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Engineer Ovie, I believe you have a word or two to say.
Yes, I really want to say a very big thank you for the audience, because I really want to say thank you to everybody for listening to this presentation, for your attention and the questions and the opportunity. Thank you also for the certificate. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And on behalf of myself, my dear wife, colleagues in the office, and other professional colleagues, I say a very big thank you to the chairman, ESCO members, and all members of the Victoria Island branch of the MNSE. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, sir. You did justice to the presentation, and like Engineer Joan said, you cleared a lot of ignorance in terms of what our perception should be when we hear about grid expansion, especially out of the country. There is always that notion that comes up that it is just us exporting power. Nobody looks at it from the perspective of having a more robust grid. So really, you did justice to the topic. Thank you so much once again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So,
thank you, sir.
Okay, so moving on, Engineer Adegoke, please stop sharing. Okay. One moment, please. Okay, we are through with the Q&A. We are through with appreciation. We are now in the AOB, any other business. For new members, if you are a new member and you are on this platform, can you just please signify so that we can welcome you? If you're a new member, please raise your hand so that we can welcome you to our meeting today. Okay, we have just one. Engineer Adeshina, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us today in our virtual meeting platform. Can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Good evening, everyone. My name is Oyedeji Adeshina. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome, sir. Our meetings hold every last Thursday of the month. It can be virtual, such as today. It can be a hybrid where we'll have physical and virtual attendance. So thank you for joining us. I hope you will continue with us moving forward.
Definitely, God willing.
Okay, great. So moving on, birthday celebrants. We unfortunately are having a virtual meeting, so there is no physical cake, but we have a virtual cake here. Permit me to call on Engineer Chinelo Kafo. Are you online? Engineer Chinelo Kafo, are you online, man? Okay. Engineer Ebere David, are you online? Okay. Engineer Adekowe, can you just welcome us? Appreciate those who are having their birthdays in the month of February.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, this is to felicitate and congratulate those that are having their birthdays this month. We wish to use this medium to wish you a happy birthday and many prosperous years ahead. And we would also like to sing a happy birthday song for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Degoke, for helping us celebrate our members. born in the month of February. So moving on, we have come to the end of our meeting for the month of February. We appreciate everyone who has taken time to join us. We appreciate Engineer Ovie for really doing justice to the technical presentation. For those of us who have asked whether the presentation materials will be available, rest assured we are going to make available the recording of the meeting as well as the presentation slides so that you can review the presentation moving forward. Once again, we appreciate you all as we ask for a volunteer to move a motion for adjournment of our meeting for the month of February. Can we have a volunteer?
Good evening, everyone. I, Engineer Temitayo Okunore Makindipe, move the motion for adjournment of the February monthly meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Before we move ahead, please permit me to acknowledge the presence of Engineer Temitayo Makindipe once again. She is a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Sorry, mother, I did not see you immediately. Thank you so much for joining us for today's meeting. Do you still have a word or two for us before we round up?
Well, I want to appreciate the technical presentation and the speaker because he gave us a lot of insight for those who don't know anything about the power industry. So it's good. It's also good to know that we actually have the capacity. It's just the regulatory issues which we then need to fix. Thank you very much to the presenter.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am, for that insightful advice. So moving on, can someone support the motion for adjournment of our meeting?
Okay, good afternoon. So I,
afternoon,
Engineer
ma'am.
Mubalagiwa, FNSE, second the motion for adjournment of the meeting.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. Engineer Movala Legiwa is also one of our distinguished fellows. And I'll have you know that she's always joining us from her present location, which I believe is outside the country. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us today. And maybe once one of these periods, we'll ask you to share the knowledge you have been getting from Canada with us.
Okay, I look forward to that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, ma'am. So on that note, it's a wrap. Can we have a volunteer to give us a closing prayer? A volunteer for the closing prayer is on screen.
Okay, let me lead.
Good evening once again.
Please let Engineer
Okay, go ahead.
give us. Go ahead, man.
Okay, thank you. So, O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. So we pray for a peaceful election in the coming weeks, and all of us, let's stay safe, and may the best man or woman win.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for that very,
Amen. Thank you.
very special closing prayer. So can we please activate our camera so that we can take a screenshot of all those who have attended our meeting? Please activate your camera so I can take a screenshot.
Have you taken, sir?
Yes, I had to take it in 4 groups. So we can unmute and share pleasantries before we close the platform.
Thank you all. Thank you, my people.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Gwenga.
Thank you all.
Thank you, my chairman and technical secretary and all ESCO members. Thank you so much, Caroline. And also all my friends in the office who joined this call. And this
I didn't know you, sir.
Thank you.
Engineer Gwenga, hi, sir. Hi, sir.
I really appreciate the presentation. It's very, very.
We are Burundi is fine, sir.
I hope they are treating you well, oh.
I am copy. I'm praying for new Nigeria.
Amen. That's great. That's very, very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm very fine, thank you, sir.
Well done,
I am
sir.
praying here that by the grace of God, there is going to be new Nigeria. All this we have discussed this evening is going to be a reality. Amen. Nigeria is good, and it can only be better for His glory. Thank you, sir.
Amen. Amen.
Welcome.
Amen. That's our earnest prayer.
Yeah. All right. Good night, all.
Okay. Good night, all.
Good night, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.